I think one of the worst decisions I made in my life was to allow my friend convince me to look at a pornographic magazine. It was one of the worst choices I made in my life, because that struggle took me about 15 years to recover.
15 years?
Yes.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah, I say 15 because it's in 15 years after that I could really say I'm clean. A young man was speaking to me some days ago and he said he watched my video, he's struggling with porn addiction. Like, how do I do it? So you mean you no longer have the images in your head? I said they are no longer there. It took 15 years.
15 years?
Yes, the addiction to it itself stopped after 10 years. I was no longer watching pornography, but you are praying like this and then naked pictures just appear in your mind. You are sitting quietly, naked pictures just appear in your mind. It took an additional 5 years for my mind to really be transformed and renewed. So I used to wish then that I never ever looked at that magazine. So for me, that was a terrible decision that I made.
Yeah, that's really, 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 really interesting. I'm glad you were able to, find God eventually, even in the midst of all that. Yeah. You mentioned how that, you found God by volunteering to go out for the nation, yes, and all. So I was even going to ask you, how were you able to overcome the thought of it? Because you mentioned that it was while you were, getting over the pornography thing and the experience. So you mentioned that, the devil will bring images and all that. So how were you really able to overcome those thoughts and the images and all of those things, your experience? Even, you mentioned how you were into cultism.
Yes.
So how were you able to overcome the thought that the enemy, the devil, because he does this, he brings back, flashbacks of your experiences, bad experiences, to hold us down, yes, to try to get a grip of us by all means, because he doesn't want to let go. So how were you able to overcome all of that? Because, there might be somebody out there who is currently facing one thing or the other, or probably, having this thought. So what do you have to say about how were you really able to overcome? What really helped you, to overcome all of those things? The thoughts, the images, you remember, some of them could even come like dreams and all. So how were you really able to overcome it?
The thing is, I made up my mind that I wanted to serve Jesus. That's the first thing.
Okay.
You cannot be desiring both worlds and be lying to yourself that you don't want Satan's control.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the reason people never recover is there's still a lust within their hearts for what Satan has.
Yeah.
I wanted a clean break. I had made up my mind that I was no longer interested in what Satan had. So that decision first set me on course.
So making up your mind is very important.
Very important that I don't want Satan's music.
I
don't
God.
Want his videos.
Yeah.
I want God.
Yeah.
So that was the first step. Second thing was I gave myself to prayer and Bible study. It's there in the Bible. Do not be conformed to the world.
Yeah.
But be transformed through the renewing of your mind. If you don't renew your mind, you will struggle. So if you are going to renew your mind, you need to be spending time with the Lord. Prayer. Then you need to be reading scriptures.
Yeah.
Scriptures are going to create a new environment. It's like you have trained yourself in these thoughts for 10 years, for instance.
Yeah.
You are not going to walk away in 2 days.
No, not.
It's a retraining. It's a rediscipleship.
Yeah.
It's a purging. It's a washing.
Yeah.
The problem is, are you ready for the process?
Yeah.
If you are ready for the process, I stopped watching TV. Yes.
Wow.
If I'm not reading a Christian book, I'm reading my Bible, I'm praying. I was doing this consistently. That doesn't mean I became useless and I was not doing anything again, no.
Okay.
But my spare time went into reading men like Bounds, reading men like Ravenhill, reading men like Tozer. Okay. That's when I fell in love with Tozer, because every time I read a Tozer book, I was on my face, asking God to teach me how to love Him. Then I prayed. I woke up one day and just found out that the images could no longer access my mind.
Oh.
Yes. So even if I sat down and said, I want to think about naked things, it won't come. It won't come because my mind had become preserved.
Yeah, and they're renewed.
Renewed. You know? So if the person is not willing to submit to the and you are watching people like Sabalo on comedy and you are laughing at naked pictures, it's madness.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot. It's foolishness. It means you are not ready. You must immerse yourself in God. By the time you come out of that baptism, you are brand new.
Yeah, speaking about this comedy you even mentioned, there are more of them that are even out there online that promote and don't even help.
Of course.
This matter. I like the fact that you even mentioned that prayer, giving yourself to prayer and study of the word, because people that go into these things, they just think that coming out of it is just by praying their way out of it without giving diligence to the word of God.
Course. Yes.
Okay, so